All right, so we're back and ready for a deep dive, this time into something kind of different.
Different how?
Well, we've been prepping for our trips, right? And
Yeah.
we decided to take some ESL classes at Academia BSB just to brush up on our English skills
Oh, yeah, that's right.
and get this. We're going to be deep diving into our actual class notes from those sessions.
Wow. I mean, that's pretty meta, isn't it? Analyzing our own language learning journey.
Totally. It's going to be fun to see what kind of insights we can glean from these notes, kind of like a behind-the-scenes look at how we learn.
I'm in.
Uh,
I'm actually really curious to see what stands out to each of us. Like, what did you find most interesting in the notes?
Hmm, that's a good question. I think for me, it was just seeing the sheer volume of material we covered. It's kind of amazing when you look at it all laid out like this.
Right. It's easy to forget how much ground we covered, from basic vocabulary to some pretty complex grammar.
Exactly. And remember, Academia BSB's motto, it's not only about the language, it's about communication. I think these notes really highlight that approach.
You're right. It wasn't just about memorizing words and grammar rules. It was about learning how to actually use English to communicate effectively in real-life situations.
Okay, so let's jump into the notes. First up, the vocabulary section. Wow, we learned a lot of words.
We did. It's kind of overwhelming looking back at it now. Everything from basic travel essentials to, I don't know, more nuanced words. Do you remember any that really stuck with you?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I remember learning reliability, which, came up when we were talking about transportation. Kind of important when you're figuring out how to get around in a foreign country.
Oh, totally. And for me, I remember empowered woman. That one really resonated, especially since we're both planning on traveling solo.
So true. It's like the vocabulary was tailored to our specific situations and goals.
Exactly. And speaking of tailored, it's fascinating how the vocabulary reflects our individual destinations too. Like your notes have bodyguard, Romario.
Yeah, that one kind of jumped out at me. But, given some of the safety concerns in Rio, it makes sense.
Right, it does. And then in my notes, I see Holocaust Museum, which reflects my plan to visit Amsterdam's historical sites.
It's like we created our own little linguistic travel guides without even realizing it.
I love that. Our own personalized dictionaries based on our travel plans.
Okay, moving on from vocabulary.
Hmm.
Remember those synonym and antonym exercises?
Oh man, those were tough, but also really helpful.
They really made us think about the nuances of language, like
Yeah.
how to express the same idea in different ways.
Totally. Like, remember trying to find different ways to say popularize.
Oh, yeah. We came up with spread and what was the other one?
Widespread. That was the one.
Exactly. And then there was finding the opposite of prohibited. Seems simple, but when you're put on the spot.
It can be tricky. But those exercises really hammered home how important synonyms and antonyms are for clear communication, especially when you're in a foreign country and trying to make yourself understood.
For sure. But sometimes a single word, even with all its synonyms, just doesn't cut it. We need to bring in the idioms.
Oh, the idioms. Those were always fun. Sometimes a little confusing, but definitely fun.
I remember this one idiom about, well, I probably shouldn't repeat it here, but let's just say it involved a body part in a rather awkward situation.
Oh my gosh, yes. That one was a bit colorful, to say the least.
It definitely livened up the class. But it also showed how idioms are essential for truly understanding a culture. Like they go beyond the literal meaning of words and can help you connect with locals on a deeper level.
Right. There are those quirky expressions that give you a glimpse into the humor and the way people think.
All right, so we've talked about vocabulary, synonyms and antonyms, idioms.
Hmm.
What else is there?
Well, we should probably talk about our individual travel plans because those are woven into these notes as well. I mean, we've got two very different trips in the works here
Totally. We've got my budget-friendly backpacking adventure through Rio.
versus my luxurious Amsterdam getaway.
Two totally different experiences, but both requiring us to use English.
Yeah, and I noticed that our language in the notes actually reflects those differences. Like your statements, Romario, were all about means of transportation and commuting.
Well, yeah, I'll be relying on buses and the subway to get around, so it makes sense that my vocabulary would be focused on that. Plus, got to stick to that budget.
Right. Well, I'm over here talking about private drivers and sightseeing. My vocabulary definitely hints at a more, shall we say, extravagant travel style.
It's funny how those little details sneak into your language without you even realizing it.
Totally. It's like our personalities and travel styles are imprinted on our vocabulary choices.
Okay, so we've seen how our individual goals and destinations shaped our vocabulary. But there's more to these notes than just words, right?
Oh, definitely. We had that writing assignment, remember?
Ah, yes. How to remain calm in difficult situations when traveling abroad. Now that was a challenge.
Yeah, let's just say those first drafts were a learning experience.
I think we both had some interesting moments in those first drafts. I know I had a rather creative use of the word but in mind.
Oh, yeah. I'm trying to remember what I messed up.
But the great thing is that we can see the progression, right? From the raw first draft to the teacher's enhancement insights.
And finally, to the final version where it all comes together.
It really showcases how Academia BSB helped us refine not just our grammar and vocabulary, but our overall communication skills.
Exactly. They didn't just correct our mistakes, they helped us understand why those mistakes were made and how to avoid them in the future.
And then there are those class stats at the end of each section. I gotta say, some of the stats were a bit confusing, like what in the world is phonetic deviation ratio?
That's basically a measure of how accurately we're pronouncing English sounds, but the fact that they even track this shows how much emphasis they put on actually being understood.
Right, because what's the point of learning all these words and grammar rules if no one can understand you when you speak?
It's not just about knowing the language, it's about being able to use it to communicate effectively. And Academia BSB really nailed that aspect.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about vocabulary, grammar, idioms, writing, pronunciation.
It's amazing how much we packed into those ESL classes.
And it's all right here in these notes waiting to be analyzed and dissected.
I'm excited to keep digging. What's next on our deep dive agenda?
Well, we've looked at the past. Now it's time to peek into the future. Next up, we're tackling the upcoming linguistic scope section, which means
Presence, perfect tense, and separable phrasal verbs.
oh boy, here we go.
You know, those classes really showed how, even though we're both learning English for travel, we each have our own, path.
Yeah, it's like Academia BSB. They actually made a custom language roadmap for each of us. Like they knew where we were going and what we wanted to do.
It's true. And that reminds me, there's that bibliographic references section in the notes.
Oh yeah, they actually gave us a ton of resources to keep learning even after the classes ended.
It's like they knew we'd be hungry for more knowledge.
Right. Websites, articles, all kinds of stuff about the things we were learning. Like, remember when we were talking about airports and they linked us to the TSA website?
I know, right? You wouldn't think airport security could be so fascinating.
So they didn't just teach us in the classroom. They really encouraged us to keep exploring on our own.
Exactly. Language learning, it's not just about the classes. It's about, continuing to learn and grow.
Speaking of continuing to learn and grow, let's not forget the upcoming linguistic scope section. The part where they give us a sneak peek at what's coming next grammatically.
Oh, yeah. Present
Okay.
perfect tense and separable phrasal verbs.
Yeah, I remember feeling a little intimidated when I first saw this on the syllabus.
Intimidated. That's putting it mildly. I was totally freaking out.
Present perfect tense. What even I as that? And those separable whatchamacallits don't even get me started.
I know they seem scary, but trust me, they're super helpful for expressing more complex ideas.
Okay, so how about you give me an example?
Okay, so imagine you're at a bar in Rio and you want to tell someone how long you've been traveling.
Okay.
Instead of saying, I went to Colombia, you could use the present perfect and say, I've been traveling through South America for 3 months.
Ooh, that does sound more impressive. So it's about connecting past actions to the present moment, right?
Exactly. You're showing that something that happened in the past is still relevant or impacting you now.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get it.
Yeah.
But what about those separable phrasal verbs? Those still sound like a mystery to me.
So think of them like verbs that team up with prepositions or adverbs to create a whole new meaning.
Okay.
Like the verb look, you can look up a word in a dictionary,
Yeah.
but if you look up to someone, it means you admire them. So that little preposition up completely changes the meaning.
Ah, I see. So it's like the verb and the preposition are doing a little switcheroo, creating different meanings depending on how they're arranged.
Exactly. And the tricky part is that sometimes those partners can be separated in a sentence.
Wait, what?
Like you could say, I looked up the word, or I looked the word up.
Whoa, my brain hurts.
I know it's a lot to take in, but the good news is that with practice, it becomes second nature.
So what you're saying is these separable phrasal verbs, they're like the secret code to unlocking fluency.
Kind of. Once you master them, you can express yourself with more precision and, like you said, fluency.
So the big takeaway here is that language learning, it's not just about vocabulary and grammar.
Right.
It's about knowing how to use those elements in real-life conversations. And these class notes, they really highlight that.
Totally. And they remind us that language learning, it never really ends.
It's an ongoing journey, right?
Exactly. It's about embracing those challenges, celebrating those little victories, and never losing that sense of wonder that comes with, connecting with different cultures through language.
Speaking of connecting with cultures, I think it's time we move on to the final section of these notes, the part that really gets us thinking about the bigger picture of language learning.
You mean a final thought, your linguistic compass section. That one really got me thinking too.
It asks us to think about what we want to achieve with our English beyond just these trips we're planning.
It's deep, right? It makes you think about what doors this new language can open for you, what connections you can make, how it might even change your whole perspective.
I love how it shifts the focus from just learning the language to thinking about the impact it can have on our lives.
It encourages you to see it not as like a chore, but as an opportunity for personal growth.
And cultural enrichment.
Right, exactly.
It's like they're saying, okay, you've learned the basics. Now go out there and use this language to explore the world, connect with people, and see where it takes you.
And isn't that the exciting part? The possibilities, they're endless.
That final thought section, it really got me thinking.
Yeah.
Learning English, it's not just about like ordering food or asking for directions. It's about, I don't know, connecting with the world on a whole other level.
It is, you're right. It's like you're gaining a new perspective, a new way to see other cultures and ideas.
And it's funny, I've actually already noticed a shift in how I see things. Like I'm way more aware now of the differences between Brazilian Portuguese and the European kind.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm starting to really appreciate like the beauty of both.
It's amazing how learning a new language can actually make you appreciate your own language even more.
Right. And it's not just that I'm also paying more attention to like how people use language in general,
Yeah.
to persuade, to tell stories. All that stuff. It's
So
fascinating.
you've unlocked a whole new level of understanding.
Exactly. And it's making me think about what I want to focus on next.
Hmm.
Like if I were starting a new vocabulary list today, it would probably be all about Brazilian music.
That's awesome. Think about it. You could talk about samba lyrics in English.
Exactly. Or I could explain carnival to someone who's never been. It's so much more interesting to learn when it's tied to something you're passionate about.
It is, and it opens up so many more possibilities for connecting with people. You can really share your culture and your interests.
That's what I love about this whole deep dive into our class notes. It's not just about reviewing what we learned, it's about thinking about why we're learning.
And how it can change us, right?
Exactly. And it all comes back to that Academia BSB motto. It's not only about the language, it's about communication.
Communication is key. It's about using language to connect with people, understand each other, and build bridges between cultures.
So to all our listeners out there, if you're feeling inspired to start your own language learning journey, we encourage you to check out those resources we mentioned earlier.
You never know where it might take you.
Who knows? Maybe someday we'll be deep diving into your class notes and celebrating your linguistic achievements. Until then, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those conversations flowing.